Good evening and welcome back to Monday Night Skippys here on RaceSpotTV, round number 7 here from Ile Notre Dame in Quebec, Canada. Welcome to the St. Lawrence Seaway and Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Back here as always, and well, this track is a challenge, Connery. It's tight, it's confined, it's a street circuit. Incidents tend to pile up at this place, and that is meant literally.
Yeah, it is, especially coming down into that final chicane. We saw it just a season ago with Bill Fraser et al. Having a small altercation, shall we say, coming up through the Wall of Champions that resulted in an absolutely fantastic finish. But let's hope we see the same again, but without the incident.
Absolutely, indeed. And looking at the qualifying results as they stand right now, for him's looking pretty good at the moment, as he has been for this season, but Tom Ward's up there in second place. Bill Fraser in third, wanting to make up for last time out at the Nürburgring. Got Hobbs and McRitchie filling out your top 5. Edwards, Simonson, Walker, Daniels and Adcock is your top 10. I don't think I could find a more star-studded field, Connery. This has the vibes for a very good race.
Yeah, it's going to be brilliant. You see your what's going to be your championship leader right now, Jack Hobbs, currently provisionally P number 4 on the grid, and I think he's going to stay there. He seems to be still on the lane at the moment, but yeah, he's championship leader. But the thing is, he hasn't won any races. We've had 4 different winners this season already: Simon Edwards, Benny Simonson, Bill Fraser, Fee Mantonides. But Jack Hobbs is your current points leader because of his consistent amount of top 5s. He's got what is going to be 6 races, 6 race starts, and it's going to be 4 top 5s, 6 top 10s, and no DNFs to be seen. So that's fantastically consistent season so far from your championship leader.
Absolutely is. And let's take a moment just quickly to talk about our title sponsor here on RaceSpotTV for the Monday Night Skippy series. That is CALM, and is a Campaign Against Living Miserably, and they are an award-winning charity dedicated to preventing male suicide, which is the biggest killer of men between the ages of 18 and 45 in the UK. In fact, under 45 in general. Check them out, of course. We've got links in our description. You can find all the information there and how to support such a wonderful charity doing fantastic work. And don't forget, the views you see of the track here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, brought to you in part by Esteban Balo's Track Pack for Gourmets, some of the best cameras you can get for road racing out there. Connery, this track, it winds, it weaves, and it is very challenging, of course. These curbs, not a huge problem when you're driving a NASCAR, of course. This is what this version of the track was actually designed for and scanned from, was the NASCAR layout. With those very large sausage curbs, not the Formula 1 version with slightly more sedate curbing, shall we say. In a truck or an Xfinity car, not too bad. But these Skippys, they're half the size of some of these curbs. It makes it a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, they do tend to launch over them, and those walls, those concrete walls aren't going to help things at all, especially if you bash a wheel there. It's going to absolutely ruin your suspension, and that could potentially be the end of your race if you step 1 foot out of line. But checkered flag is out there for your qualifying session. I'm not expecting really anyone to make any sorts of big improvements at this stage. They have had 20 minutes of open qualifying, so just as I say that, Benny Simonson, P number 5, didn't even set a time in the 1 hour 40-minute practice session that we've had, so he's just come into the session, set a stonking lap time of 1:51.9, and that's good enough for P5.
Certainly is, and we're going to run through your qualifying order now. Mantonides there on the pole with a wall time of 1:51.767. Cracking time from him there. Tom Ward with second place. Bill Fraser, Jack Hobbs, Benny Simonson, your top 5. You have James McRitchie, Edwards, Walker, Daniels and Adcock rounding out that top 10, so a bit of a shuffle in terms of order, but not in terms of the people in that top 10. Outside there we have Matt Cox, Nick Sigley, Anthony Catt, Ewan Patterson, Chris Malcolm, Sarah Savage, fantastic run last time out for her at the Nürburgring, Darrell Taylor, Paul Thurston, Robert Plumley and Ryan Hewitt, the Torpedo, in 20th place. The rest of those positions will come up on your screen just now, Connery, but 12 laps here today on this race. And of course, well, weather is a tiny bit cooler than usual. About 73 degrees Fahrenheit, track temperature is 76, so very even temperature there between the air and the track. That can make things a bit difficult for these guys. Of course, it is morning in the session. Winds from the west, 6 miles an hour. Not a huge deal for the winds here with the track being very built up, but that temperature on the track does interest me somewhat.
Yeah, and I think it's a welcome relief to some of your drivers out there because, you know, over the start of this season and the end of last season, we did have quite a couple of, Monday nights where it was super, super hot out there on circuit. I remember Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, round number 2 of this season, that race was particularly hot. So I think the drivers will be thankful for some cooler conditions for today's race. Just gives them that little bit of extra security, that little bit of extra grip on the racing circuit so they're not sliding around all over the place.
Absolutely is. And well, you need to make sure, of course, you get things right on this track because a momentary lapse in judgment is a wall coming up to greet you. And as the session looks down, we're going to have a look at our 1 second bracket as we always do. We're looking for a 152.7 and we get there fairly rapidly here, actually. We're looking around 14th place with a 695. Ewan Patterson there. So 1 second, not a huge field within our plus 50 cars we have in tonight's race. So it's going to be a packed track.
Yep, very, very busy. Looks like it's going to be 50-plus cars heading their way down in towards turn number 1 once we get this one started. And it is a very short run down towards turn number 1 as well. So they'll likely all still be clumped together as they battle 2, maybe even 3 wide coming down into the first sector. So expect a very, very busy track.
Certainly is. The car's going to be heading to the grid now. Get themselves set up for tonight's race. And as we mentioned, 12 laps around this circuit tonight. Doesn't seem like a lot, but this track is surprisingly long for these cars with just under 2 minutes lap time. That's those cars heading up to the grid now. And I've got to say, Connery, the top group is going to be interesting to watch. We'll have a fantastic race if my spidey senses tell me anything. And tonight there's Ward, Fraser, Simonson, Edwards, Walker, Daniels, Adcock, of course, Hobbs and McRitchie in there too. This is a huge group of cars, huge group of drivers who we all know battle very ferociously. Should be fantastic.
It should well be, as can Jack Hobbs, your current championship leader, get his first win of the season? That's going to be an issue. Can Benny Simonson, Tom Ward, Fehima Denidas add to their tallies? You got James McRitchie as well, who's been very, very strong over the past couple of weeks. Maybe he can do something about that lead pack. You got Simon Edwards as well, race winner so far this season as well, starting P number 7. So this is going to be a very, very tough front pack, and I'm not sure who to pick for your winner right now.
I don't think it's even possible to pick a winner as the field gets itself finalised here. We look at the back of the pack and, well, they're just starting to approach the very last corner. In fact, 1 or 2 of them might actually, yeah, they are in the last corner, in the chicane itself. So probably the one time coming to that chicane, you'll be stable and not in trouble. 54 starters looking like they're on the track for tonight as we get ready to kick this one off. Engines rev. Green flag flies. And it's actually an uphill run here to turn 1 at Montreal. The car's not going quite as quickly as before. Slightly uphill, not hugely. Trouble at the back, though, already, as we have some issues on the racetrack. Connery, can you find out what that was for us as we just keep our eyes on the leaders? Heading into that first corner and trouble coming through turn 2 there. Big bunching up. No one really have any off tracks, but a couple of taps to fronts and rears of cars. Fahim still leading this one as they go through the first corner. Fourth corner, I should say. Through the first fast section here. Hugging the right-hand side as you come into the big braking zone. Nice and stable towards the front. Connery, what do you have for us?
Yeah, at the back of the field on that race start, we did have pretty much non-starter. That was the 93 of Aidan Bro, just didn't get the way off the line at all. And there was a couple of drivers completely unsighted behind. The driver directly behind Tom Barry managed to get himself well out of the way, but a couple of drivers, well, they just saw it at the last moment and weren't able to stop themselves from colliding straight into the back of Aidan Bro. I think the first victim of that will be Michael Taylor of the 23. So big trouble at the back of the field on the start of the race.
Here we go into turn 10, the big hairpin corner here at the far end of our racetrack. Lap 1 coming to a conclusion fairly rapidly, actually, but no real movements yet. We expect Tom Ward to try and make a run at Antonides here in the run to the final chicane. But it looks as though Fraser's actually got a bit more speed on Ward than vice versa. Young Scotsman, defending champion, moves to the outside of Tom Ward here for second place. It's going to be too wide going into the final corner. Will Fraser make a move? Oh, blocked by Antonides as he goes up the inside there. Ward shoots up the inside of your race leader. Oh, there's going to be a cut track for someone there, I think, because that was a little bit too little room. As everyone bunches up out the corner, Fahim goes backwards in a hurry through that pack there. As I'm not sure who got the cooldown, but I don't think anyone did. They might have just missed that one.
Yeah, potentially Fahim there as they on the brakes in towards turn number 1. Still slightly bunched up is your front pack as Fahim Antonides and Benny Simonson all in the middle of this one. James McRitchie trying to go around the outside of Fahim Antonides. Will drop back in line though by the time the turn 3 and turn 4 chicane slightly downhill arrives. Careful of that wall on the outside there. You can tag it just a little bit, knock your wheel out of alignment, and that spells trouble for pretty much the rest of your race. But looking back towards the front, Tom Ward and Bill Fraser, the two most aggressive drivers on this entire grid, in the same piece of real estate. This never usually ends well, Rachel.
It doesn't. I think we had an incident there with Hewitt, and we did indeed have a Hewitt at the chicane. We had a Hewitt at the chicane. We certainly did, actually. Ryan Hewitt and Clark Williams with problems in that final corner. I'll get a quick replay of what happened there because we're not going to get a replay of that one. So there was an incident between those two drivers. Both of them down the order, in fact, out of the race as it stands. Fraser goes to the outside there of Ward into turn 10 this time by. Takes a wide run. Contact! Oh, big contact. Big group of cars involved in that one. And it's side by side for your lead. We're going to have a quick look back at what happened there with that group because that was catastrophic for your lead pack. As looking at these cars, the 361 of Hobbs gets, well, closes the door on Simonson. Well, he closes the door. He doesn't give Simonson room. Gets turned around. Antonides and him go into it, as does the 187 of McRitchie. Everyone bomb burst to get around that, but, well, not really Benny's fault there. I've got to put that one, unfortunately, on Hobbs. He closed a door that wasn't his to close.
I wouldn't say that's a firm closing of the door, though, so I'll actually disagree with you. I'm going to pin that more on Benny because I think that gap only existed for a fraction of a second. Decided to stick his nose down in there, and there just wasn't really enough space to work with coming through the hairpin there. It was a late move, and it's a move I don't think he should have gone for.
Fair enough opinion there. Looking into the leaders now. Bill Fraser's gotten past Tom Ward as we expected on the run from 10 to the end of the lap. He's leading now as that two front car group has broken away here with the gap, of course, with the little conflict we had behind him. Ryan Walker next in line, 3.5 seconds back here, so the leader's already broken the draft at this point, and it's now going to be Walker, McRitchie, Hobbs, as, oh, Simonson went straight off there. I'm looking to see what happened with Benny, but my camera angle's a little bit tricky, actually. No, he just, yeah, he had damage from the incident earlier on and tried to carry on, but just didn't do it for him, Connery. He, oh, well, tried to brake there and he couldn't.
Yeah, that car was crabbing all over the place, so I'm not surprised that he's taken the tow, brought it down towards the lane. He's actually out of the car, so I don't think we'll expect him to even take the fast repair at this point to try and get back out there and salvage some form of points from this race. So Benny Simpson, for all intents and purposes, out of this event right now. We've still got that leading pair, though, of Bill Fraser and Tom Ward. That one definitely has the potential to get a little bit spicy over the next couple of laps. And, of course, you got this second pack behind, currently led by Ryan G. Walker as well, up from P number 8 up into P number 3. Will get challenged here coming down into the final chicane by James McRitchie on the inside. And I think McRitchie is going to complete this pass anyway. Here comes Jack Hobbs behind, who I'm surprised is still running as well as he is, considering the piece of contact they had down in towards the hairpin, but that was leaving it close there coming into the final chicane. Gets a little bit of oversteer on exit as a result of hitting the curb, and I think Hobbs is going to perhaps be filed to the back of this train right now. It depends if Stuart Adcock actually goes for this move down in towards turn number 1, but no, Hobbs is going to go for the move over Ryan Walker here. He's a little bit tentative on the brakes, but Walker's going to miss the apex. He'll still have the inside line, though, for the second corner, and Hobbs still hung out to dry on that outside line, but he's absolutely tucked right underneath that rear wing. He's going to go down towards the inside at turn number 3 now, which isn't your usual overtaking opportunity, but Hobbs manages to make it work.
It does indeed. One of the drivers I want to talk about already, up 11 places, Sarah Savage here, up into 7th place. Bombing into the top 10 there, and a fantastic run from her so far. That's 3 laps, or 4 laps we're on the 4th lap here, so 3 completed, and she's up 11 spots. That is a massive climb for anybody in this field. Biggest move in your entire top 15. In fact, Jeff Killick up 10 spots, actually, back in 17th from 27th. Another great move from him there. But looking at our leaders, really, Fraser and Ward. Look, Ward stayed behind Fraser that time. I think he's just sitting in place here, letting Bill Fraser do all the hard work, Connery. And he's going to make his move when he wants to towards the end of the race. There's no need to needlessly pass back and forth with the time gap they have. Run in line. You make up time on the pack behind you, and then you can decide it amongst yourselves, because 4.2 seconds, that's already astronomical. And speaking of drivers who are looking to make places, Stuart Adcock there, well, sitting back right now in 6th place, but he's sitting on the front end of this train, coming up from 10th in 6th place at the moment. Has the opportunity to pass these guys, but he's waiting and biding his time, as we're going to have a bit of a fight here between McRitchie and Walker, looking for the position into the final chicane, as Ward and Fraser actually did battle up ahead. Fraser stays ahead though. Everyone stays in line and in order here, but Sarah Savage, Edwards and Kat are catching up very rapidly to this second group, so we could have a really good fight on our hands shortly.
Yeah, this second pack is really slowing down. We'll see the exact lap times as they come across the line, as this second pack have it in within the sort of the mid 153s for the guys at the back of the train, and it's the low 152s for your third pack. So there's a considerable chunk of time gained there by Edwards, Savage and Anthony Cat, so you can expect them to join up right onto the back of this second pack in just a lap or so.
Very much so, but, well, at the very point in time, things staying fairly static on the racetrack for the most part. We have got a number of cars down laps already due to the nature of this track. In fact, 43rd place backwards out of 54 is actually 1 lap down at this time. And we talked about Benny Simonson, of course, Connery. He's basically out because he isn't running for points. He's not running for his season. In fact, he has officially retired now. He's not running for season points. He's not running the whole season, so he just wants wins and podiums, and unless he does, it has a reasonable chance of that, he sees no point in actually continuing the races. So after that incident, it was almost expected he would bow out of the race, as he has in fact done. And we're going to see the leaders here once again. Ward and Fraser. Will Ward make a move this time?
Well, he looks a little bit far back, but the thing is, the back straight is so very long here at Circuit Gilles Villeneuve that he'll be able to close that gap in, well, and not have too many problems with it. Won't be close enough to make a move down into the final chicane, but someone who will be is James McRitchie on Jack Hobbs right now. So McRitchie going to get past your championship leader, heading down in towards the final chicane. Hobbs is not going to fight this one, will drop back in line and decide to not lose the time by going side by side through that very tight chicane.
Very much so, and at this point stays very much stable there. Hobbs, Walker, Adcock, Edwards is catching up here. Edwards has gotten past Savage, so started in 7th at the moment. That gap's come down now to just under 2 seconds for those two groups. They are closing. That group behind them not fighting as much, so they're making up a lot of time. Paul Thurston up to 12th place. Yeah, Connery, did you get that number for us?
Yeah, 22 thousandths that they gained last time by. So the margin, well, the lap delta has come down a little bit from when we last saw it, but this pack is still catching the second pack. So Edwards, Savage, Cap, they're all going to be in with a shot for, well, at least one podium position if they can lock onto the back.
They are indeed, and one group that's having a good time in the race at the moment, of course. Paul Thurston up from 17th to 12th. Gary Tall from 16th to 13th. Those two cars staying together and battling as a pair as they work their way up the field. See if they can crack the top 10. The cars ahead of them will be that target, but not a huge amount of movement so far. Plumley up 5 places from 20th to 15th, and the driver up 9 places. Simon Maltby just behind him. So a lot of movement in this field at this time. A lot of guys making places and trying to find out where they can gain. Gary Tall, we just spoke about him. He's had an incident there on the run down towards turn 10. What happened to him? Oh, he ran wide in that second chicane, Connery. Gets on the stripes, gets on the grass, can't turn, bounces on and off the barrier, holds the car onto the barrier so it doesn't bounce back into tracks. Very sporting of him, but there goes his suspension.
Yep, and that's kind of what I warned about at the top of the broadcast. As soon as you tag those walls at just the wrong angle with those exposed wheels, it's going to knock them out. It's going to damage the suspension. And that is exactly what has happened to Gary Tall there. So he's going to drop down on time. Inborg's having taken the toe back towards pit lane. And which is, unfortunately, he did have a good run of things early on in the season, but this race just didn't really work well for him. Qualified P number 16 didn't really improve all that much on that position, so I think this is just a day to forget for Tall at this moment in time.
Very much so as well. The race is coming up to half distance here as we're on lap number 7. Still, Bill Fraser leading laps as Tom Ward just sitting in his draft, allowing the gap to widen. 6.5 last time across the line was the gap between themselves and Hobbs. So the battle for third place will look like an isolated incident here. These guys are going to have to fight amongst themselves, Connery, to decide this one, because the chances of them catching first and second, unless they have a major drama, is near zero.
I definitely wouldn't count out major drama between Fraser and Ward at this point. We know what they're like. They're going to absolutely have no holds barred. They're going to have the gloves being off for that fight for the race win in the closing couple of laps. So anything could happen. So if you're at the front of this second at the front of the second pack, if I can get my words out correctly, then you could still be on for a race win, depending on what happens between Fraser and Ward.
Absolutely, as they are catching lap traffic here, and it's an awful lot of traffic and not an awful lot of opportunity to pass. As I also struggle to English. But got a pair of cars drafting up ahead of them as Ward actually goes past here for the first time ever. Seeing the lap traffic as an opportunity, Connery, to make a move and make a gap over Bill Fraser. He's going to use that and actually use him for the draft potential here. Sucks up and he's going to make a pass nice and easy. As that pair has split up, that's one of the banana machines up ahead of them. In fact, I think that's Barry West, who goes wide of the corner. Gets out of the way as well as he can, but he stays on the inside, holding his line, which is his right to do so. Gives a bit of a gap there between Fraser and Ward. Ward chose the right. Oh, 3 wide there for P11 through 13 at the moment. That was some hairy racing, as they've obviously gone single file once again. Things are heating up, and Paul Thurston on the attack here. Maltby just behind them there. Not quite as close, but Thurston trying to make a move here with Cox and Plumley.
Yep, he is, and this will, this is the battle for P number 11, so P number 10 to get yourself into the top 10. There's another couple of seconds down the road, so unfortunately I don't think it's going to be another top 10 finish for Mr. Thurston, but let's just see how he can work with the likes of Cox and Plumley right now in terms of battling them. They did go 3 wide, of course, that last lap coming down in towards turn number 1, so maybe we'll see that again, maybe next lap or so, but it's usually sometimes very good to give some sort of attention to these sorts of mid-pack battles. We usually like to focus on the front, but the thing is, there are battles all the way throughout this field in the Monday Night Skippies. We've got 37 cars still on the leading lap here, so still lots of fantastic racing to be found.
Very much so as well. Here they come now through turn 11, looking at that, the second group, or turn 10 I should say, just coming out of it. Still McRitchie, Hobbs, Walker, Adcock. But there's a good draft here, so we might see Hobb make a move back on McRitchie as they come up towards turn 11. He's going to do it. Cleanly around the outside, no major problems for him there. The rest of them staying in line, but Adcock looks to the inside, changes his mind at the last second, and stays in running order. No one's hit the wall of champions yet, Connery. I'm actually a little bit surprised and slightly disappointed.
Well, I wouldn't count any chickens yet. We've got about 4 laps to go for that one to happen, so let's just see. But Adcock's still on the back of this train of cars for P number 3 right now. Currently led by a championship leader of Jack Hobbs, followed by McRitchie, then Walker, then Adcock. And you've also got Simon Edwards that's still trying to lock himself onto the back of this train. He's broken himself away from the likes of Sarah Savage and Anthony Catt, but he's sort of in no man's land right now. He's getting a little bit of the draft from the back ahead, but not enough to bring him right to the rear end of Adcock. Oh, down the inside goes Adcock. That's a fantastic move there, coming down into turn number 6. And in fact, he holds the position as well. So the drive of the 52, that was an opportunistic move there over Ryan Walker, down into the braking zone. Ryan Walker just left the door open. Adcock was close enough to capitalize. Slings one down the inside on the limit of braking. That's a very, very good move.
Very, very much so, yeah. That's one of those things you see from an experienced driver like Stu Adcock. He can pull that sort of thing out of the bag, Connery, very, very easily. He waits for his opportunity, he strikes. He's not going to make a move every time he sees the door, but, well, when he senses the right time, he goes for it. And in this final sort of quarter of the race we're into now, with what will be 3 laps remaining as we get to the end of this lap in just 2 corners time. But Stu Adcock now sensing the opportunity to move forwards and going to be trying to set his sights here on McRitchie and Hobbs, as McRitchie set to make a move back on Hobbs here, as those two will be slowing themselves down a little bit fighting, especially if they go too wide into the corner. That lap traffic ahead of them now. That could play into this as we look to the race lead. Fraser back past Ward as he pulling the Indy car here and changing sides on the road as much as possible to break the draft with each other. Realizing it'll be a two-man fight to the end of this. They both want to find that magical advantage, but it's going to be a who's probably second place leading into the final chicane moment, I think, judging by how these things tend to go. As McRitchie is back up into the third spot. Hobbs lost that position. Adcock has gained a lot of time on them, though, from the fighting, so this could be an opportunity as the lap traffic ahead of them. Now, being caught in a very inopportune location, there's not really many places for them to go here, Connery.
There's not many places for them to go on the entirety of this racing circuit. It's kind of a bit tricky for lap traffic with the amount of chicanes at circuit Gilles Villeneuve. So let's see how they negotiate this one. It's not often that your drivers in this series have to be able to negotiate lap traffic like this. It's not usually an issue, so let's see how well they will have to deal with it, as again the lap traffic's going to be ahead coming in through the turn number 8, turn number 9 chicane. So McRitchie, he's got to be a little bit patient here with the traffic. He can make it down the inside of at least one of them coming down onto the brakes into the hairpin. But in terms of trying to get past Tony Stack, he'll probably try and get that one done coming down the back straight. But again, they're going to have to be held behind once again, coming up through towards the hairpin. Now side by side behind between Hobbs and Adcock, at least briefly coming off of that corner. But now down into the turn number 10 hairpin, they'll have to come. As I am out of the turn number 10 hairpin, sorry, as the race leaders there, Bill Fraser, Tom Ward, they're going to go side by side there, and Tom Ward's not going to back out as he's kind of forced to coming into the braking zone of the final chicane, but this is not a lot of time left now. It's going to be 2 laps to go next time they head their way across the line. So this is the strategy card starting to play out now. What does Tom Ward plan to do? What does Bill Fraser decide to do? As Tom Ward's going to go down the inside anyway at turn number 1, and he's going to fail at that just for now. Looking for the switchback move off of 2 though, and well, it's at least half successful. He draws a wheel alongside Bill Fraser's wheel. Side by side will go into turn number 3. Fantastic racing, Rachel, but Ward's going to have to back out of that one.
He closed the door on him a little bit, but it was a respectful shove of the door rather than a kicking it in his face sort of door close, as Bill Fraser keeps himself ahead for now. The fighting's kicked up behind him as well. Hobbs, McRitchie, Adcock and Walker starting to heat up. In fact, I saw McRitchie give Jack Hobbs a bump draft in a Skippy on the front stretch this time by Connery, so this is definitely getting a bit warmer.
It is indeed. So we've got the ongoing battle between Ward and Fraser. We've also got that battle for P number 3 and back. We've got Adcock looking so aggressive right now. He's going to probably draw himself alongside here on the brakes into 8, and let's see if he's successful. Nope, he's just going to back out of that one, not really feeling confident to sling his way down the inside there. We've got Ryan Walker that could be an unknown element in this one as well, so any one of these 4 cars could take P number 3 when all is said and done. Well, slight defensive move there from Adcock there, as he's going to be side by side with Ryan Walker coming through the hairpin, but Ryan Walker's going to get cut back off the corner, as I think the white flag is going to be in the air this time by your leaders. Are going to go side by side down into the final chicane.
Bill Fraser will be inside here as Ward looks to the outside line. He might have an advantage, as he can definitely go too wide through the chicane if they push it, and if anyone's going to, that would be, of course, be Tom Ward. Oh, Bill Fraser's got to have a corner cut there for that. That was a huge chop of the corner, but he stays ahead somehow. I'm not entirely sure how that works, but Bill Fraser managing to stay ahead of Ward somehow, unless he's planning to give up the time in this first corner by just holding Tom Ward behind him. You better have big gloves for that. As, no, everything seems to be fine. Bill Fraser somehow flaunted the laws of physics is behind them. Too wide there with Hobbs and McRitchie into corner 2. Adcock right on the back of them, looking for an advantage. Going to go to the outside. Looked almost like it was going to be 3 wide for a second, but gets alongside McRitchie here. Overlap of wheel nearly touching. That was very close. Can he push it around the outside? He tried. He didn't have the chance. Holds onto it for now. Looking at your leaders, though, it's still same running order. Fraser, then Ward. Ward has 1 shot, and that's going to be the run from turn 10 to the end, Connery. This second group, well, they're heating up already here as... Oh, big run wide there by McRitchie. He overcooked it. Went in deep. Adcock around the outside. This could move him up a spot here on his run into the braking zone. He can hold the outside line, get the inside for the next corner with the speed advantage he has. Side by side there, McRitchie and Adcock. Who will take the biscuit here? Yes, that's a McRitchie joke. Oh, contact! And off they go. We'll show you more to that after the race, but that was pretty much a textbook. I didn't turn enough, and behind them it's 3 wide now as Adcock going to be passed by Walker and Edwards, or Edwards at least gets through. Adcock's car might not be damaged, but I think it definitely cost him time. And wow, who got cost time? Tom Ward lost a lot of time in turn 10. He is miles back from Bill Fraser. The young Scotsman, your previous champion last season, has a completely huge gap between himself and second place. It is a straight run for him to the final chicane. Do it properly. Don't give yourself a cool down this time, Bill. Don't look at the wall of champions or you'll end up in it as he comes out of that final corner. And the long run to the flag, and it will be Bill Fraser, the young man from Orkney who comes across that line, winner in round number 7. Tom Ward's going to have to set off a second place. I want to look back real quick, Connery, as these cars are going to be coming across the track. In fact, before that, we've just got, of course, McRitchie and co. That one sorted itself out. It's going to be Hobbs, Adcock, Edwards, Walker. But I want to take a look back at what happened with Tom Ward. Where did he lose that much time? Because that was a catastrophic difference between the two of them. Was it a self-imposed error or a move he made that tried but failed? We're going to look back towards turn 10, which I think is looking like... No, it's actually not turn 10 where it happened. It was actually a little bit earlier. The second chicane, I'm thinking. Yes, it was. Second chicane. Tom Ward goes in hard, kicks the back end out, gets sideways, and just loses a huge bunch of time there. So a driving error by Tom Ward that cost him that.
Yeah, just pushing a little bit too hard. You have to feel on the final lap, just going a little bit over the limit. And once you go a little bit over the limit, that's going to be a huge amount of time lost. And it has just resulted in Tom Ward not being able to challenge coming down the back straight into the final chicane, which was kind of his final opportunity, his last gasp attempt that he could have done. And he's just you know, made sure that he doesn't have that opportunity as a result of that mistake.
Absolutely, that was quite the dramatic end to this one. And well, we'll run through your final order now. We've got the race complete. Coming in with the win, Bill Fraser, the young man from Orkney there. Tom Ward, second place, and Jack Hobbs in third with the final podium spot, fighting out there at the end. Stuart Adcock and Simon Edwards rounds out your top 5 with Ryan Walker, James McRitchie, Sarah Savage up 10 spots, the highest mover in your top 10. Anthony Catt, Nick Sigley in 10th place. Beyond that, Cox in 11th with Paul Thurston scraping 12th in the end. Anton Ides recovers from a pole to 13th place. Maltby in 14th with Chris Malcolm 15th place. Jeff Killick, John McGovern, Plumley, Cowan, and Tom Barry in 20th place. There we go, we're showing a replay now of the McRitchie incident we saw there a moment ago on the racetrack just before the end of this one. Connery, talk us through what happened.
Yeah, once I can get this up on my particular machine, but they did briefly go 3 wide down in towards turn number 1 on the start of that lap, and then heading towards the end. Once we get towards the second chicane is where it's going to be. It's side by side between McRitchie and the car of Stuart Adcock, so battle of the late breakers coming down in the braking zone. I think McRitchie just got a little bit of entry oversteer on the brakes there, trying to get the nose into the corner, just wasn't happening. Was carrying way too much speed and just drifted slightly into Adcock's line, pushes Adcock off the track, and as a result, Adcock has to fight 3 wide with Edwards and Walker heading down towards the hairpin.
I mean, looking at this myself, he really had completely missed the apex there and was going to miss it. He slid actually wide, and yeah, right into Adcock's line. And one of those moments where nothing much either of them can do. It's cost them both a lot of time, and still a top 4 for Adcock, but the best he could manage there. We're going to have a chat real quick, though, to the driver who came home today in 6th place, Ryan Walker. You managed to be involved in this second pack, which was our biggest fight today. Good race?
Yeah, that was awesome fun. I enjoyed that. But I was still surprised to be up close to the front, fighting in the pack, or in the pack where I thought it would be, because I've not raced the Skippy for quite a while. But yeah, P6, I'll take that any day.
Certainly a fantastic run today and a great end to this one. A difficult track, though, for most of these drivers. Gilles Villeneuve, very different than Nürburgring.
Yeah, it's one of those tracks. It seems to be, if you get it right, it's great fun to race around. But if you get it wrong, say for example in the Champions of Champions corner, and you get it wrong, and you're basically just heading for disaster, which is the wall.
Certainly is, of course. Well, thanks for joining us, Ryan. It was a good race for you. Came home today from 8th place into 6th.
Thanks very much.
Next up, Connery's caught up with Matt Cox.
Yes, I am. Matt Cox, you started P number 11. You ended up finishing in that exact same position once we get him into the booth, as he's decided to not go for an interview. So perhaps we'll go for Paul Thurston instead. Started P number 17, ended up 12th there, Paul. From what we could see, that was a relatively decent race for you out there today.
Yeah, it worked. I'm not particularly quick here. But I was a bit conservative early on. I was qualified just behind Gary. And coming into the first corner, I had Gary and Sarah, and I thought, well, okay, you know, discretion's the better part of valour. So I didn't actually try and go side by side, and then gained a few from people falling off, but then got into this absolutely awesome little battle with, well, Gary, Matt Cox, several other people whose names I've completely forgotten just for the minute, but it was just all race. It was a really, really good race. Near the end, oh, it was Rob. That's, of course, it was Rob. Rob Plumley, but then he screwed it at the last chicane a few laps from the end. And I just couldn't quite catch Matt. Matt was just that little bit too quick for me then. But it was interesting because I saw Fahim just looks like lurking, just pulling up behind the cars behind me like a shark. He was still a couple of seconds back, so I thought, well, he's safe enough. But I should be okay. But you know, when you've got Fahim sort of coming up behind you, and you do tend to sort of worry slightly. But it's yeah, that was a really enjoyable race. You get good racing here in Canada.
Yeah, good racing, despite it being, for all intents and purposes, a street circuit, and it's one of the only street circuits on the entirety of the iRacing service. Of course, we've had that announcement from iRacing that they'll be bringing the Belle Isle circuit to the service. So, do you have to treat these sorts of circuits in a different way? You treat things like the Nürburgring GP circuit and things like that? Are you just a little bit more aware of how close those walls are?
At a couple of the corners, yeah, but it tends not to faze me, the walls. I quite like the walls because it gives you a reference point, bizarrely. In sim racing, it doesn't hurt if you hit them, although it hurts your car. I did actually lose 2 places today, just missing Champions World. I overtook Matt into the chicane and just bounced a little bit wide, and so I had to lift right out, and I lost all momentum, and he and Rob just came sailing past, which otherwise I might have finished like 11th. But you've just got to be a little bit precise with it. The thing that phases me with particularly this circuit, Zolder, a few of the other ones, are these big sausage curbs. I just can't really get the hang of those. Carrying the speed over them is very difficult, and getting speed out of them every time. Consistency is very difficult.
Yeah, we saw a couple of people have some big issues on those curbs, especially coming in into the final chicane, where they can be particularly vicious. But apart from that, you're currently, well, what was P number 11 in the point standings. We'll see how that one changes once the points get themselves updated. But in terms of the rest of the season, it's been a decent first half of the season for you, and now firmly within the second half of the season. What are your plans? What are your goals for the end?
I try to take it on a race by race basis. You have to. You can't think, okay, I'm aiming to get the result there and the result there. Okay, that one you can drop. You just got to try and just get as far up the grid as you can. I mean, we're finishing at Brands Hatch this time. My aim is basically to get to Brands Hatch in a position where I can actually maybe have a go at, you know, top 10s all very well. I've done enough top 10s. You know, I want top 6, I want top 5. You've got to aim higher, aim high. You know, and sort of aim for the moon, basically. Then if you drop back a bit, at least you're in orbit.
Yeah,
what a very interesting thought there from Mr. Thurston Connery. But we are going to move on here and have a quick chat to Barry, and we'll talk to Barry. Yeah, Barry first, then we'll talk to Matt Cox, who has returned, viewers, so do not fear. But Barry, busy one for you towards the rear.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm going wrong. I must be aiming for the ceiling and falling flat on my back. Yeah, I didn't get... Well, I got one toe in qualifying off Simon. Got a lovely toe down the back straight. Didn't realise how fast I was going in and missed the last chicane. So my qualifying lap was not very good. And hence I'm back in the pack. And it was just mayhem going through that, the tunnel with the walls both sides first lap. I avoided 2 incidents, got past a couple of cars, and then there was cars flying through the air in front of me, and you just couldn't avoid them. So I took a tow straight away, 2 minutes, and then they came out, I think it's 48th or 50th. Fortunately, Tony was in the same predicament as me, so we were having a little ding-dong between each other, and we decided to work together. And then he got past me, made a mistake, I got back past him. Last lap I thought I'm in the right place. I ran the hairpin, within 0.6 of him in front of me. Thought, yeah, and by the end of the straight, he was 0.7 in front of me. So I don't know how I lost the speed on the straight in his slipstream. But the only excitement I think we really had was when the leaders came round. There was, I think, 3 or 4 together, and then because we were trying to all tow off of each other and keep out the way at the same time and not touch anybody, so that was an interesting part of the race. Yeah, next week, next time.
Well, fair enough. Thanks for joining us, Barry, and giving us a bit of an insight into that one. We were going to talk to Matt Cox next, but I've just realised the TeamSpeak user who finally changed his name is James McRitchie. So, James, busy race for you, of course, but the one thing I think the viewers want to hear about is what happened on the final lap.
Yeah, I think that was totally my fault. I completely outbroke myself, and I'll take responsibility for that one. Or to Stuart, was it?
It was Stuart, yes. Very mature attitude, but a busy race for you, though, in general. I mean, you had a cracking run there with that top group. Yourself and Hobbs battling out for third all race long. Track you like?
Yeah, I like it. It's good. It's fast. You've got to be brave over the curves, like Paul said. You know, I always keep making mistakes lately towards the end of the race. That's 2/3 of thrown away, maybe. So hopefully I can improve.
Hopefully indeed. Well, congratulations regardless on a very good race, even if the result does not necessarily reflect it the same way as it was. 7th place, still a great top 10 result.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I'd just like to say thanks to Chris Cash and Pure Motorsport for helping me through. Cheers.
There you go. Congratulations to you, and thanks for your team.
Thank
and
you.
Matt Cox, we're going to have a quick chat to you now. Matt came home today in 11th place, just ahead of Mr. Thurston, so pipping him at the post. Enjoy yourself. We can't hear him. He left last time, and now we can't. Actually, oh, now I can hear him. Or me. I could interview myself. We're having a couple of audio issues there, so we'll just have to pop them out for now.
Hey Rachel Whitefield, it's Paul Vincent here from RaceSpotTV. How was your commentary here today? Did you enjoy it?
Absolutely, Will. I really enjoyed it, but you know what? I'm going to flip this one on its head right now, and I'm going to ask you, possibly the biggest fan of IndyCar, I was going to say on the planet, but let's just say in this solar system, reasonably, Belle Isle coming to iRacing. What does this do for you?
Oh, you know what? Belle Isle, it's a track that has finally provided itself to be a good replacement for Milwaukee as a race after the Indy 500. I mean, we went to Texas for a while, and Texas racing's good, but it's not that special. Belle Isle, it produces something interesting. You go from high speed oval racing, and then you go back to a street circuit. And actually, one thing that IndyCar's done over the last few years is make street circuit racing fun in the same way that actually Azerbaijan has been able to make street racing fun over the last couple of years.
It certainly has, of course, and Belle Isle as a track, let's not forget, it's exciting. It's a lot like Toronto. It's not perhaps a Long Beach, which I'm personally not a fan of. I think Belle Isle and Toronto have a raceability to them that IndyCar really thrives in, Will.
Yeah, they do. They really do. And actually, one of my coolest moments was I was actually stuck in an airport in Detroit on my way to Indianapolis, as a lot of the drivers actually do their press work for the duel in Detroit. As many people will know, Roger Penske puts a lot of effort into that one. And I was actually stuck in an airport with Will Power, Charlie Kimball, and a couple of other people, as we had to wait for 4 hours for a plane to get to Indy.
How terrible for you.
I know,
Wolfitz
so
must have hated that moment being stuck with all his favourite drivers. But we are going to go last chat to Matt Cox, if he's actually with us this time.
Is it working now?
It is working now.
Hooray!
Matt, how was your race?
It was a lot of fun. Sort of qualified about the 10th, 11th, I think it was, and that was good. And then was having a battle for 8th, 9th, and 10th, I think, with Anthony. I think Nick Sigley was in there. And then on about the 3rd or 4th lap, I was coming up turn 2, and I went for a tear off, and I turned the car off. And that's when Paul ended up with me, and yeah, we had a good battle then. And then we was having a good scrap, and all of a sudden my teammate come past me. I didn't even know he was there, and it's like, okay, not having this. And then it was a battle after that, and it was, yeah, great fight, lots of fun.
Well, fantastic news from you. Congratulations on coming home today in 11th place. So it's where you started, it's where you finished. Fantastic, and it looks like the chat are very happy to hear from you finally, so we're glad we got your tech issues sorted out there. Well, folks, we're going to wrap things up for tonight on Monday Night Skippys. Will is busy frothing over Belle Isle, so we're going to move swiftly on from that. Random break coming up same time as always next week. Do not forget to check out in our description Calm, the Campaign Against Living Miserably. And of course, if you like these cameras, this is Esteban Ballo's Track Pack for Gourmets that brings us all the best views at a racetrack every single week. I've been Rachel Wyford, I've been joined by Connery Maddock, and of course, the one, the only Will Vincent on the cameras tonight. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you same time next week. Bye.